N'Keal Harry was an absolute steal at 32. What are you guys talking about? Forget Tom Brady's passing numbers. He's the GOAT because he was the best punter in the NFL. I take Johnny Hecker over Patrick Mahomes to be my quarterback any day.
Welcome to the No Punt Intended Sportscast with your host, Parody 07.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. I'm back with my boys, the DAWGS. And we've got a good one for you today. Week 1 is past. There's people who have lost games, won games. There's teams that are... hopes are really high. There are teams that have no shot of winning a game all season long. And then there's the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And then there's the Chiefs, and we don't have no clue what to think.
Yeah.
So it's been a busy week, obviously. Opening night, we had the Kansas City Chiefs against the America's Sweetheart Lions. And America rejoiced today.
No, some very smart people are saying both the Chiefs and the Lions will make the Super Bowl. Just really smart people are saying that. So
is that the case?
I think this is a good thing.
Hey, I've heard it, man. I've heard it as well. We'll see.
Yeah,
it's a long season, but
people
have indeed been saying.
Yeah, I try to block out what I call the doc talk. Okay, I try to block out the noise. I only listen to real people, right?
Yeah.
But it was a crazy week. I mean, we had some really great games. Miami Chargers probably taking the cake on the best game of the week. Obviously, the Lions Chiefs game, I think, was probably the best opening game we've had in about 5 or 6 years. I thought it was a really entertaining, a lot of good, storylines. It was a close game, and I think the team that most of America wanted to win won,
Yeah. I don't think there's been a better opening kickoff game since the Chiefs beat the Patriots. I must say.
I don't remember that.
Dang, he went there.
2017.
Yeah, no, that was Alex Smith and Jamal Charles.
Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt.
Was it Kareem
Hunt's
Hunt? Rookie,
and he had 40 fantasy points.
Oh, that's insane. Right. Yeah, and that's when he fumbled on his first touch. I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. We beat you in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure that year too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, the better team won. The better team won. So obviously we all have thoughts. We're gonna go through and kind of talk about what we've thought, and the way we're gonna structure this is the good, the bad, and the coaching, because obviously coaching has been absolutely ugly in the NFL for the past several years. There's some good coaching that happens, don't get me wrong, but nobody talks about the good coaching. All we want to talk about is the ugly coaching, because that's what gets views. That's what gets people's blood boiling, because the guy that's sitting on the couch eating pizza, crumbs all over his shirt and his jersey and his hat not, crooked just a little bit, sitting there yelling at the TV because he definitely knows better than that guy that gets paid millions of dollars to make decisions.
Oh yeah, I mean, it looks like an easy job.
That's what I'm
easy peasy,
but they don't messed up, and guess what? Their hindsight is way better than the others, right? I mean, shoot.
Yep.
I mean, I know I would have kicked a field goal for sure. I'd have definitely would have kicked a field goal on 4th and 3 from the 17. I mean, for sure. No doubt in my mind that I would tell Bill O'Brien not to call a play for sure. Absolutely. Give me a freaking break. Oh, goodness. All right. So we're going to start with LB. He's going to talk about his unfortunately, 0-1 Carolina Panthers. A little bit of a letdown from his prediction, but the floor is yours, Mr. LB. Tell us about what the good, the bad, and the coaching of the Carolina Panthers in Week 1.
All right. Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Let's just start off with the breakdown of the numbers. Obviously, Carolina drops the Week 1 game 24-10 to the Panthers. There's a lot of good takeaways despite the loss, and we'll get into that a little bit more on the offensive side. But first, I'm going to start with the defense, and our defense played really well, all things considered. First possession of the game, they go 3 and out. We get our ball back to Carolina. Carolina puts a great possession together, and ultimately decides to go for it on 4th and 1, which is not my favorite decision in the world. But again, I'll circle back to that in a little bit. Some quick highlights. Brian Burns had 1.5 sacks in the first quarter alone. Pay that man all the money. He's an absolute weapon.
Yep.
Derek Brown had a great day. He had 8 solo tackles and a sack. Frankie Louvu was involved, 7 tackles and a sack. I mean, the boys are getting after it. Let's not make any mistake about it. I mean, our offense didn't help us out with 3 turnovers on the day. And unfortunately, Atlanta capitalized and scored 17 of their 24 points off those turnovers.
Brutal.
So that number is a little bit misleading. But all in all, man, Carolina, their defense looked pretty well. Played hard, had great first down productivity on defense. We had 6 tackles for a loss on the day and 4 total sacks. So, I mean, the number's there, the production's there. It's just when you get into the nuances of the game, field possession, we lost that. Turnover battle, we lost that. We had an opportunity late to recover a fumble. Unfortunately, ball bounces the other way, and Atlanta falls back on it. So, I mean, that's just going to happen. But yeah, man, it was encouraging to see that first quarter specifically, and Carolina came out white hot on defense, like I said, with a 3 and out. Then we put a great possession together on offense. I mean, it couldn't have started any better other than Carolina scoring a touchdown that first possession. Obviously, we don't. We give the ball back to Atlanta, and the game kind of progresses from there. But our defense did their job for the most part. We didn't play complimentary ball in the fourth quarter late in the game either. I mean, the offense just couldn't get out of their own end zone, and we couldn't flip the field a couple times. And when you throw 2 picks backed up inside your own 20-yard line, one being from inside our 5-yard line. I mean, these guys are too good in the NFL. They're going to score at least field goals, So that's the big thing, I think, in terms of like a holistic approach to the game. But I'm pretty happy with the way the defense played. I mean, it was 10-10 going into the fourth quarter. So we were in a dogfight. I wholly expected that. Obviously, I thought it was going to turn out the other way. My prediction was 24-17. Carolina eking one out late. Obviously, that didn't happen. Had the 24 right, just for the wrong team. Go figure. Yeah, man, that's just kind of my initial impressions from the defense.
Okay, very good. Before we get into your offense, I know you're a former quarterback, college quarterback, spent a lot of time in the lab, out on the practice field, tearing up the starting defense for Shepherd University, and I really appreciate your knowledge, and I wanted to introduce a new segment because I feel like your insight is valuable, and I really believe the way you break things down really helps us understand the context, not only of just, the numbers of, the guy being 10 for 22 for 130 yards, a TD and an interception, that only tells part of the story. So to give us the full context of the story, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce a new segment, LB's QB Breakdown.
We're going nice right, ice cream,
What's
alert.
the difference, really, other than Bailey Zappi looks a little better?
The end zone, touchdown.
Newton throws, end zone, touchdown, Robbie Anderson.
And strong in the pocket, goes through his progressions, and he finds the open man time and time again.
I'm excited about this new segment we've got going on. I'll be focusing on Bryce Young this season. Obviously, he's a guy down in Carolina. And we'll have an overlay for those watching and listening on YouTube of the NFL Next Gen stats. And it's a neat little breakdown of what those numbers mean and what it looks like on the field. So I'm going to start with the completions versus attempts. So Bryce Young threw the ball 38 times in his first NFL start. And I think that's a positive. I think looking into that a little bit, and it's just me speculating, but I think Carolina has a lot of confidence that, one, he can handle those throws and that responsibility, but also that he's got a good master of the offense, that they're kind of letting him loose. And I think the best way to learn in the NFL, especially being a rookie playing in your first game, is just you gotta get repetitions. He was a little bit limited in the NFL preseason games. He didn't have many attempts. I think he had less than 30 in 3 games. Obviously, he's not starting all those 3 games. However, I thought they're pretty minimal. So it was encouraging to see him throw the ball 38 times. He completed 20 of them. Obviously, they're flirting just above 50% on the day, so that's not great. We want to see those numbers a little bit better. But, it's understandable. I'm not really surprised on how he played. The 2 interceptions, as you'll see here on the right hash, at about 15 to 14 yard mark, were on 2 over routes or end cut digs or crosses, whatever that route combo was. And Jesse Bates, the safety for the Falcons, jumped both of those routes and just made a great play on the ball, especially in the first one. He actually broke his rules for the coverage they were in. He should have been getting back deep half, but he's watching Bryce. He's got free range on certain plays, as many of these guys do in the NFL, where they can break their tendencies and rules for their coverages, and he just ball hawked it, man. It was a great play. Obviously, it sucks. We're backed up deep in our own territory, and you always hate turning the ball over, but you especially hate turning it over like that. And then the second one you'll see is these red circles are literally touching on the stat sheet. And again, Bates made essentially the same exact play on essentially the same type of route. So that's going to happen. 2 picks in the first start. I mean, history shows that, first round picks starting in their first NFL game historically have fairly bad opening days. And don't get me wrong, Bryce didn't have a barn burner of a day. He went 28 of 30. He went 20 of 38 with 146 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. So nothing to write home about. However, going into the fourth quarter, we're in a dogfight. We're in 10-10 game, so we're right there where we need to be with plays to be made and things like that. So despite the turnovers, it's not like we're getting blown out. So that was. It's just going to happen. But as you'll see, too, also on this next gen stat, we had 1 deep shot on the right sideline of 40 yards, and it was incomplete. And then that 20 to 40 yard mark, there are no targets, no opportunities, nothing there. So there was really a cap on where we were trying to stretch the defense or lack thereof. I mean, we took 1 shot there in the game, and then you'll see we had a couple incompletions between the 15 and 20 yard mark, which, it's going to happen. Timing, bad throws, etc. There's all type of reasons why that might be incomplete. But I think going forward, you'll start to see some of these more chunk plays of 20 yards plus, especially over the middle. We don't necessarily have a deep threat right now at wide receiver, but with scheme and route combos, we can work the middle of the field. And you'll see that here, obviously, on the stat sheet, that majority of Bryce's completions come just inside the hashes or right outside, right over the ball. We were hitting a lot of curls and just over routes and stops and whatnot, right between the 10 to 15 yard mark, which is fine. You're going to need those, and you're going to have to get those completions, because if you can start picking teams apart and moving the ball methodically, 10 yards here, 12 yards here, etc., those safeties are going to start playing down downhill a little bit more to try to take away those underneath routes. And so that when you bring them up, you can hit them one with hard play action over the top, or you can burn them deep. That I think for Carolina is going to be a little bit challenging because we don't necessarily have a deep shot. I mean, there's only one Tyreek Hill in the league. If you had somebody like that, I think you'd obviously see more deep shots. So that's one thing to look forward to, I think, in the coming weeks is trying to stretch the field a little bit more. Carolina ran the ball for 154 yards, so that's really nice. That's going to help, again, in the pass game, especially in play action. And that doesn't necessarily show up on this stat sheet, but it's another like wrinkle, and it plays into each other. If you can run the ball well, you can generally pass the ball well, and vice versa. If you're passing the ball well, you can generally run the ball well because then they're going to empty the box. They're trying to get more athletes on the field, and then you can really run the ball between tackles, and so you can play really complementary football. Obviously, you see on the stat sheet the blue line, not the line of scrimmage, but the blue dot. That was a RPO to Hayden Hurst in the red zone for a touchdown. That was nice. That was a good read. He pulled it quick, got the ball out, put it on the money. So, there's plays to be made. We had a lot of checkdowns, which is good. You're not forcing the ball over the field and throwing it away when need to be. So, all in all, you get rid of the 2 picks. I think it's a different game, obviously. Get rid of the fumble. It's a different game, obviously. But again, for a first start, throwing the ball 38 times, I like that. I would like that as a quarterback. You want to go out and showcase what you can do. And again, it's just going to help the guy in the long run. It might be ugly now. But again, he's only going to learn from his mistakes, watch the film, get back, and reevaluate what he did wrong, why he did it wrong, and then how to go from there. So look forward to continuing to do these. We got Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers against the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football down here in the Queen City in Charlotte. So hopefully that one turns out a little bit different for the boys, and hopefully they can get a win. But other than that, that was week 1 of this installment. So
excellent.
Look forward to these coming up.
Heck yeah. You have the Saints losing to Carolina 21-28 as of right now. We'll give you a mulligan at some point. Each of us will get a mulligan at some point here, but I think it's a little early to use it.
Yeah, definitely.
I do want to ask you a question. You mentioned that Jesse Bates has rules that he's supposed to use as he's using coverage. And the reason why they have those rules is so that there's people, not just so that Jesse knows where he's supposed to be, but also that everyone else on the defense knows where he's supposed to be. And that's how really good defenses work. They are able to read what the offense is doing pre-snap a lot of times, and then post-snap as well. But knowing where everybody is helps you understand where your coverage is as well, and how, especially if you're in zone, how those zones will shift based on what the formation is and if they try to flood one side or something like that. But a question I have is if Bates is playing safety, most likely he's in some sort of deep middle zone, or he's playing back half in a cover 2 or something along those lines. And if Bryce is making he made the same throw twice is what it sounded like. I didn't get to see these particular plays, but from what it sounds like Jesse was able to read Bryce's eyes to where he felt comfortable breaking the rule, which was probably for him to stay back, and which is why Bryce threw the ball, probably with some sort of anticipation, thinking the guy was going to be open. And then Bates undercuts the route. So was Bryce kind of staring down his receiver in those situations, and that's kind of what led to the pick?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. I think, first of all, you got to tip your cap to Bates on making 2 phenomenal plays. The first one in particular, Bates came from the left side of the field, and we weren't threatening his zone deep. And so when you're back there basically playing center field as a DB, if say you're in cover 3 and you got the deep third of the middle of the field, well, if you're not getting pressure, from any outside routes, any deep middle post, where you're supposed to be basically roaming and you can be the safety help on, a deep go ball from the outside or a deep crosser or post from the middle. If you're not getting threatened deep, I mean, don't run yourself out of the play at 25, 30 yards. Because back there you have, like, the quarterback has the greatest vantage point from the offensive standpoint. Defensively, it would be your strong and free safeties who have the best vantage point. So they can see everything going on in front of them. Especially if you're in zone, if your eyes aren't locked onto a receiver, you can really, get back to your assignment, let everything develop, and read and react. That's the phrase a lot of these defensive guys use: read and react, read and react. And so
see ball, get ball.
Exactly. And so when you're not being threatened deep or vertical from a slot position, you're really able to come and sometimes, they have this thing called robber position,
right?
Or not position, but coverage. And one of those safeties will basically roll down. They'll start in a too high look, which oftentimes is some sort of
cover 2 or cover 4.
2, cover 4, cover 6, even, just depends. But post snap, you'll roll down to the middle of the field at, that 15-yard mark, and you try to really pick anything off or just absolutely clock anybody coming over the middle. And that's what it looked like without that actual coverage.
Right.
So
it's
again,
what it turned into based on because Bryce was staring down his guys. Yeah. So you hope that Bryce, and you hope that, number one, that the off, the way that you get around that is you have an inside guy run a go ball to run the deep that guy out of the play. So to guarantee that zone is vacated. The other thing you do is you have Bryce learn how to look off the safety. You have maybe that inside, go ball or a post or something like that coming on the opposite side of the formations, and having Bryce stare that down so that he either breaks inside on that to the opposite way, or he backs up for a post so he doesn't get beat over the top, and then just have Bryce learn to come down to the next part of the read, which would likely be the middle of the field right there. That's what you'd like to see, but it's his first game. That offense that he ran in Alabama, there was probably a little bit of that, but not to the extent that he has to learn to look off these safeties in the NFL. And JC Bates is one of the better ones in the league, so I definitely hear you on that. So thank you for that breakdown, man. That was awesome. I really appreciate that. Hound, I know you're just elated to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and their prospects. You have them going 13-4. They're already a quarter of the way to their loss total based on your predictions. So you better hope they either Kelsey gets back or that they shape up, one of the two.
I know it's a weird feeling being 0-1.
Yeah.
The last time the Chiefs were 0-1 was 2014. The good old days with young, too good-legged Alex Smith, Jamal Charles was running it back and forth. Except he was actually suspended for the first 2 games that season, so
that's why you lost.
Yes, but anyways, it's a strange position to be in. But I think there's some good stuff. Our defense was pretty good. We kept the Lions' offense to only 14 points because one of those scores was defensive. Or was not offensive. So our defense did good, even with Chris Jones off the field, and Chris Jones' holdout is over. We signed him to a very team-friendly contract, actually. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
So
that was a bold move, him going to the game, though. By the way, when I saw that, I was laughing my head off. I was like,
wasn't he in the suite with somebody?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, no, he was a suite with his agents, the Katz brothers.
Oh my gosh,
Katz brothers agency. It's hilarious. I love listening to local sports media, and anyways, it was so funny. The longer the holdout went, the more personal their insults became. They started like because who knows a person's agent, so that's not really a thing,
right?
But as it went on, it's like, oh yeah, there's the Katz brothers and they're stupid, they're horrible people. It's just really funny.
Wow.
It's got more personal as time went on, but yeah, if you look back at the video footage of Chris Jones in the suite, the 2 people who are sitting beside him are both of the agents, and they both look like they're from The Sopranos. So
yeah, the Dons.
Nice.
Yes. We're going to get a contract here, see?
Yeah.
And they did get a contract that I think Brett Veach, our GM, is very happy with.
Yeah.
Like Chris Jones, if he hits all the incentives, which includes winning the Super Bowl and being named Defensive Player of the Year, he will make $3 more million than he would have under
what he was already playing.
What he was already going to get. So,
gotcha.
like, yeah, that's very team friendly.
Yeah.
But there was some bad.
Yeah.
The receivers, obviously, 9 drops. I've never heard of that many drops in a game before.
Those don't go to your batted balls.
I know.
Stat, by the way.
I know. 9 drops is insane.
Yeah.
3 of them, I think, officially were with Tony. I don't think it was 4 officially with him, but I think Darius Tony had 3. I know. It was insane. But here's my hot take. You want to hear my hot take?
Of course. This is what
Kadarius Toney is not the receiver I'm most worried about on that team.
Uh-oh.
Sky Moore is the receiver I'm most scared about.
Okay, let me hear
Sky Moore,
why.
Well, he dropped a pass, but like that's not that big of a thing, right?
Yeah.
He didn't catch a single pass, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay. The reason is because he couldn't get open. Sky Moore was covered that entire game, and he played the most snaps of any of our wide receivers. Kadarius Toney, he dropped everything that was thrown to him, basically. But at least he was open.
He was wide open on some of it.
No, on like 3, like on the catch he made, he was open, and then 2 of the drops that he had, he was wide open.
Yeah.
Wide open. Like, you know. So it's like he can get open. He just needs to be able to catch the football. And I don't expect him to drop 3 times a game, right? Like that's very strange. He had been injured all training camp. He hadn't played in any preseason games. This was his first week back, so he had 2 practice days before this game. So hopefully that's what it is. But I'm more worried about Sky Moore, because if he can't get open, well, then you're not getting the football.
Jeez.
But anyways, so that's the bad, obviously. And then the coaching.
I can't wait to hear 4th and 25. Let me hear it.
Oh, yeah. So that's very fascinating. So before I get to that.
Okay.
There's a couple things.
Okay.
Short yardage, we've kind of had some silly plays, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
Rotating receivers, because we actually activated and started all 7 of our wide receivers. We try to rotate them in, which is not a bad thing because we don't know who's good or bad.
Right.
But the problem is that once a player started catching, like getting some heat and doing well,
they took him out.
Rashee Rice, they took him out. And it's like, that's not what you should be doing. But anyways, 4th and 25. In honesty, I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's like, I don't love it, obviously.
Yeah.
What's crazy is actually if Sky Moore, who the football was getting passed to in that 4th and 25, had not jumped up, but had continued to run diagonally back as he was going, it would have landed. It was landing where he was going to be at. Yeah. Right. But he just wasn't expecting that. But because in all honesty, if we kick the football, like, okay, that's good, but you still would have to stop him from getting a first down either way.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter whether it's on like the 30 on your own side or on the other side's 30. You're going to have to stop him.
Right.
Right. And we didn't. So either way, we probably weren't going to get the football back.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think it made an impact in the game. Now, is that a smart decision? Like beforehand, not knowing if your defense can stop them or not? Probably not a smart decision. But knowing that the defense didn't stop them from getting a first down, it didn't make a difference.
I see. My thing with that is that it's a momentum thing, right? Like to stop them. You know, it just felt like at that point, Kansas City was like bleeding out. You know what I'm saying? And I know it doesn't seem that way, but here's the thing. You know, I'm sure part of the decision making is like, okay, who do we want the ball? Whose hands do we want the ball in right now? And do we go the best player in the world or a punter? I'm like, okay, I get that, but at least if you punt the ball, you have an opportunity to, you force the Lions to have to make a play. Even though it's a routine play, it's still a play. How many times have you seen that situation come up and then something screwy happens and there's a muffed punt or something crazy like that happens?
That's true.
And at the very least, because here's my thing. If you did stop them, they were in field goal range. So they would have gotten points off of that and then made your job harder. Now, a minute 20 to go and Mahomes needs a touchdown. I mean, he did that at the end of the second quarter. So, I mean, it's not like he's, not done this before. Yeah. But I felt, personally, because I did sit and watch this game, and I actually watched the second half twice because my mom wanted to watch it. I didn't do that. I felt like because and I'm sure LB can testify to this. It's such a momentum game. When things are going your way or you feel like you're the one in control of the game, there's this confidence that is an intangible that we can't really identify with stats and that sort of thing. It just shows up in the stats later if you kind of break it down by quarter or by half or something like that. You just see how the game flow kind of goes. But I mean, I definitely don't disagree with the idea of putting the ball in the best player in the world's hands, but at some point, I mean, you're asking Uncle Rico to throw it over two mountains at that point, and it's tough. It's tough.
If it was like 4th and 10, I'd be a lot more.
I agree.
On board, but 4th and 25, and the crazy thing is they had the right idea. Mm. Like on the play call, I think was actually right. Mm. I just think the route running wasn't amazing.
Right.
But it's again, I think at the end of the day, I don't think it made a difference. But if going in without that knowledge of whether it was or not, I don't think it was a
bad
necessary play to make.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Well, and 4th and 25, I mean, there's nothing that you have game plan for that situationally, especially there. You know what I mean? It's not like you can go to your bread and butter play. It's like a 3rd and 8. You need something at that point, like 3rd and 8, 2nd and long, etc. Like your whole playbook's basically wide open with.
Well, and here's,
you know what I mean? Like you got guys everywhere.
Well, and really the biggest issue was the fact that the Chiefs abandoned the run. They got the football back in the 4th quarter, down by 1 point with 2.5 minutes left, and they didn't run the football once.
Mm. Yeah, it's plenty of time. Do you know how many timeouts they had at that point?
I think we had at least 2. I want to say we might have used one maybe somewhere, but we definitely had the timeouts you're supposed to have. And the thing is, you could just run out the clock to get within field goal range, right? So doing that's not. Yeah. And the other side's going to call timeouts for you if you get within field goal range, so you'll have plenty of time.
Right.
I think that was the other issue. Is like now again, that's not even been an issue if Kadarius Toney and the wide receivers are actually catching the football. They had 2 drops on that drive.
Yeah, they did.
Well, he had a drop by Kadarius Toney, and then Sky Moore had it in his hand, and then the corner knocked it out.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, okay. Maybe we should go back to running the football and not have to rely on our wide receivers who are clearly frazzled at the moment.
Yeah.
Get some confidence.
Yeah.
But anyways, that was the big thing. Also, I think it's really funny with the deflected passes. I don't know what it is with the Chiefs.
Yeah, you got a bunch.
Well, and here's the thing. We have a bunch of deflected passes at the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. Now, deflected passes can also include cornerbacks, and I think that's where a lot of teams get theirs.
Yeah, you had a few of those too.
Yeah, we had a few of those, but we got a lot that are just at the line of scrimmage for some reason. Yeah. Like, I think we had 3 at the line of scrimmage, so it's just funny. Yeah. Anyways.
That's good stuff. How do you feel Mahomes played despite everything?
Oh, he played fine. He had a couple missed throws, a couple. Yeah. But again, the interception obviously wasn't his fault.
Right.
And if half of those drops had gotten caught,
it's a different game.
You'd be talking about 280, 290, probably around 280-ish yards.
Yeah.
Which is and 2 touchdowns. Not even if you're saying they're not going to even score again, right? It would have been fine. Right. So we just had so many drops that, he had a couple missed throws, but the drops is really what the problem was.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel you, and it was tough. Just watching Mahomes play reminded me of 2019 Brady when the weapons were not what they usually were. I think our top tight end was Ben Watson, like a 38-year-old Ben Watson, who was on a Super Bowl team from the early 2000s. Like, it was like 15 years after he'd been on the team. Ben Watson was our tight end that year. I remember Edelman was a shell of himself, so he really didn't play all that well. Myers was, not really Jacoby Myers quite yet. I don't remember who else they had a couple other guys, and none of them really separated. I think they had Mohamed Sanu on the team still, and he was old and wasn't doing anything. Yeah. And I remember watching Brady play and just feeling like the stat sheet would show him having like 60% completion percentage or something like that. Just something just average or a little bit below average or something like that. And I was like, if they took away the amount of times he threw the ball away, he would have almost like an 85 or 90% completion percentage, because he would throw the ball away 5 to 10 times a game because nobody was open.
Yeah.
Mahomes doesn't have to do that because he can run around a little bit, which was the only reason you guys ever scored in that game. But I wouldn't be worried at all with Mahomes. I definitely agree with you. It was definitely the receivers kind of let him down. It's unfortunate, your best player outside of Mahomes couldn't play because of just a freak accident. But happy for the Lions to get a win. I'm rooting for the Vikings to win the Super Bowl this year based on my prediction, and that didn't turn out well as far as the division standings go after the dust settled in week 1. But it'll be a dogfight in that division for the Lions. But
I'm not really worried.
Yeah,
we'll see the Lions again this year, upcoming year, so it'll be fine.
So rivalry for the ages.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Thank you for listening to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. Be sure to check out the Thinking Hound and to like, share, and subscribe.